And we are live.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our second annual or second weekly Sunday live stream. Good to see everybody come on in here. What is going on? We are going to be jumping on here today to go over one of the videos that just dropped. This video, we had a bunch of people reach out already, so we thought this would be a really good video. It hasn't received as much traction as we had thought they would. I mean, it's just not like one of those super.
It's not a sexy video.
Yeah, it's not like a super sexy video, but it's probably the most informative video that can make you a ton of money. Out of all the videos we've ever made, this video right here is probably the most important video we've ever made. So we wanted to dig deep into it and, review it with you guys and go over it and see how maybe we could help you. I know a few people reached out over the weekend. We're going to go see if that works for them. But specifically, this video is on the power of offsetting. So if anybody has talked to us and we preach this, essentially what offsetting is B lenders allow you to take a portion of your rent, usually larger than what a conventional lender would allow you to do. And you can use it to offset the actual cost, whether it's a subject property or a property you already own. You can take, like, say, 70 to 80% of it, of your rental income, and use it directly towards your property taxes, your heat, and your mortgage payment. Now, if anybody quite wraps their head around how qualification works, if you take away all of your expenses, it increases or decreases your GDS TDS ratios. So if you have enough cash flow on your properties, whether that's you purchasing an owner-occupied multifamily or just a portfolio, that's how we get you into those subsequent properties.
Yeah, guys, the B side has a double-edged effect where, like Josh said, you're able to actually offset the cost of your expenses. So not only are you decreasing the amount of expenses that you're qualifying for, but you're also increasing the ratio that you can qualify within. So on the A side, your TDS, the most amount of total debt that you can have, they want to see 44% of that income being associated to your total debt. But on the B side, we have lenders that will do 50, 60, sometimes even 70%, depending on the program. So you're twofold. You're decreasing the amount that you have, and you're also increasing the amount that you're able to be within a certain ratio. So it definitely, it opens up your availability and your purchasing power so much more on the B side. And there's a lot of fantastic products that are on the B side as well too. And right now we're seeing such competitive rates on the B side. You can get the lowest rate on the B side right now is at 2.94. That's cheaper than what AAA rates were a year to a year and a half ago, where they were around 3.5%. So, it's a great product, and it's becoming super competitive. And if you're stuck and you're in a position where you're business for self and you're self-employed, this is going to do so much for you and your ability to get into a property on the affordability side.
Yeah, guys, we see a lot of self-employed people taking advantage of this program. It doesn't have to be, but for the people who don't show a whole lot of income but have that down payment, this product is for you. What we wanted to do is just kind of go over the exact same like scenario that we went through in our last video, but we wanted to walk you guys through it again just so we can maybe add some things that maybe weren't added, or if you had any questions, that would be great. So we're just going to flip over and share our screen now. Perfect. Hopefully everybody can see it. All right, guys. Here is the great house hack. So for anybody who obviously is new to this, we're going to use a owner-occupied fourplex for our outline here. Now, it's important to note that this only works if it's owner-occupied. Oh, there we go. So what we wanted to do initially was to
not only owner-occupied, but it has to be purpose-built too. It has to be a purpose-built, meant to be a 4-unit, meant to be a 3-unit. It's got to be the perfect rental.
Yeah, so obviously, it is great to be able to use this product, but it has to be legal, as Aaron said. So Aaron can go over the first kind of scenario.
Yeah. So obviously incomes and some of these numbers can change, guys, but this was really just to, yeah, sorry, you guys on Instagram won't be able to see this, unfortunately, but it's going to be the exact same video and screens that we had on the YouTube video. Apologize about that. So we used an investor, Johnny. This guy was making $25,000 a year. We took a look basically to show how we could get him to get into $1 million property on the B side. So there's a few expenses that we were using. We estimated property taxes to be $10,000. It's a nominal figure. Heating costs $150 a month, so it comes out to $1,800 a year. And the first mortgage payment, so your yearly mortgage payments are going to be $51,164 and some change. We threw in some other expenses. I believe it was a $300 car payment. We didn't include any credit card debt just to kind of keep it simple, but we're assuming most people probably do have some sort of debts, obviously monthly. So taking a look with the rental income, you guys can see on the screen, negative $55,200. So that's using that rental income throughout the year. Quick calculations just to figure out what exactly it was. You take that $55,200 divided by 12. So that's claiming $4,600 of rental income per year on $1 million property. So saying it's a fourplex, you need to divide that by 3. So about $1,500 a unit on a fourplex for the 3 other units gives you that $55,000 a year rental income. Now on the B side, because it is offsetting, we can take that $55,200 and we can negate all expenses. So if you had $60,000, so let's just look at this one here. Total expenses after we offset, you're only qualifying with $11,000 and change. So $11,364. Obviously, if you add that 11,000 back on there, you were qualifying approximately with $66,500. So that's going to be, like Josh said, your property taxes, your heating costs, your mortgage payment, coming into about $66,000. On a regular application on the A side, you're going to have to qualify trying to afford that $66,000 in yearly liabilities. On the B side, we can use the rental income to offset those costs. Now you're only qualifying at $11,000. That's $55,000, and that's a huge difference to be able to qualify with. And more often than not, it almost doubles your affordability in some circumstances. It really comes down to the ratio of income versus how much expense you have. And obviously the less expenses and the greater the income, the more affordability. But it's really just understanding the ability to offset those expenses and reduce what you're qualifying against.
Yeah, guys,
makes a huge difference.
Let me see if I can switch my camera here for everybody on there you go. Instagram there. One sec. There we go. Now you guys can follow along with us as we go through this. Perfect. I know it's kind of MacGyver-like, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah, so just so you guys can see, these are obviously right here. These are the expenses you're going to be qualifying with, your property taxes, your yearly heating. This is your yearly mortgage, and then this $3,600 was a car payment. This rental income offset right here is how much rental income you're receiving for the year, and you're able to use 100% of that and offset all your expenses. So you're actually left only qualifying with $11,364. So here's an example of an A lender adding 100% add back. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to show you the difference between purchasing with an A lender, your purchasing power, and your purchasing power with a B lender, comparing an offset versus an add back. So Mr. Johnny here, he still works for Space Force, still making his $25,000 a year. He's got some rental income here on this fourplex. So he's going to live in one of the units. And he's going to rent out the 3 other units, same as before. Now he's got his property taxes. Nothing's changed in his heating costs or his mortgage payments. Now, if you add 50%, 100% of the rental income to the qualification, he does not qualify even though he's using a much higher income. So if we take a look, the TDS here is still 82.998%, meaning there isn't really, he still can't qualify using the add back, because what happens is we take that income, we add it to your gross income, and then you still have to qualify. So if he added this total rental income to his gross income that he has from work, his total income is still $80,000. So he's still going to have to qualify for all the mortgage payments and the total cost of the home, which, as you can see, conventionally doesn't work out. Alrighty, so for this example, we wanted to show you guys how a standard high ratio owner-occupied purchase compares with the other examples. So essentially, this person is going to put 5% down on the property. As you can see, the total debt service ratio here is 70.12%. So this wouldn't work either. So, we have a handful of different situations where people are looking at alternative options to get into a property. And unless you can show more income or take away the liabilities in the property, there isn't really much you can do. So you either have two options. One, increase your income. Now, it obviously comes to challenges if somebody is self-employed. Now, so if you're self-employed and you don't want to show your income, you obviously don't want to pay more tax. And number two, if you don't have the ability to increase your income, then you're in a situation where you can't either afford a home and you can't get into the market. So offsetting is basically the next best thing to doing that.
Yeah, and I think the best thing to look at really, and what kind of I like to show, is just looking at the total amount of income being used on some of these applications. Like on this basic 5%, this is just a standard 5% down high ratio insured on a purchase price that was super low. What did we use for this? This was $150,000 purchase. So way less, obviously, than $1 million, and just putting the 5% down. TDS was way to line using 25,000. You come back here, this is a standard AAA application. Again, you can even see how much more income he's qualifying for on, technically on the A side where they add it right back. He's now qualifying with $80,200 of income, and on the A side, your maximum is 44%. So he's almost double, what your qualifying is going to be on the A side. And then just going back to the B side, we're actually only qualifying with $25,000 worth of income. The rental income on the B side here actually just offsets. So we're not even qualifying with technically the 80,000 that we would be on the A side. And you can take a look here. This is 45.457%. This is well within a B ratio, where most are around 50%. So we just kind of want to show you the strength of the B side. And I know in the past, we're kind of trying to change the stigma around it, just showing people how powerful the B side is. And like I said, the rates have drastically come down. You can get rates, you can get a 3-year B rate for 3.04%. That's a great product and a great way to get into a property, whether it's a personal residence and whether it's a rental property as well too. The rental properties, on most lenders, we're able to do an 80% add back if it's a straight rental property. So again, or an offset of using 80% of the rent. So again, super powerful being able to, even 80% of that income and offsetting all your liabilities. That's how we're able to get people from their third property into their fourth, their fifth, their sixth, their seventh, into their 10th property, is utilizing this. And as you can see with the way that the B lenders work and they're offsetting, the more income you guys are bringing in, which is really the more rental properties you guys are adding to your portfolio, as long as it's a cash flowing building, your affordability essentially increases with every property that you're adding to your portfolio, because it's positive cash flow and because you're able to offset. So it's a great product for the investors and a great product, more so for the self-employed, but great product all around.
Yeah, so something that obviously we should have just clarified that is kind of general knowledge is that this product is an uninsured mortgage product. Mm-hmm. So all of the B mortgages are completely uninsured, meaning you have to have at least 20% down to be able to use this strategy. All the insured mortgage products do require CMHC or Genworth insurance, and you wouldn't be able to use the offsetting for that. I know that our viewership has gone up and down, up and down. Obviously, we've been switching our camera back and forth, so we apologize for that, guys. But there are a few things we also did want to talk about. One being the Bank of Canada came out not too long ago this week and said they were thinking of having a micro cut to the current rate. I've had a few people reach out just asking what is the implications of that. The Bank of Canada has never done a micro cut before, so they've always just go down in 0.25% increments. it would be unprecedented for them to do some sort of micro cut. They specifically outlined that they were going to do it because they thought that it would benefit the overall stimulus of the economy. But that being said, I don't know if I foresee a micro cut really changing overall variable rates. And if it did, it would take a little bit of time to be able to take on those rates and assume them. So I don't know if it's really going to change rates overall, but the Bank of Canada is thinking about cutting or doing a micro cut. They did say that they're not going to go negative interest rates. So I don't know how much further they are able to go other than basically going to zero.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time for that. And also, one of the things that Aaron and I have noticed quite a bit is how many buyers that we're dealing with who are either first-time home buyers or people who are going well above asking. As many of you know who have looked in the market is extremely hot at the moment, meaning you need to be as competitive as possible when it comes to purchasing property. Now, many real estate agents will tell you that to be competitive, you need to waive your financing. Aaron and I obviously can never tell you to waive your financing. That is a personal decision you need to make based off of the risk. And we will always advise you correctly on what to do, but something you guys need to make a decision on. Now, that being said, there are a few factors that you should take into consideration. One being, how much over list price did you go over for your offer? Yeah. Thank you. How much did you go over your offer? So if, for example, say to be competitive, you wanted to go $100,000 over asking on your purchase, that could form an issue if, for example, there isn't another precedented sale that is able to verify that value. If you're the first in the neighborhood to have that specific sale price, then you're setting a precedent, and all other appraisals will use your house as a benchmark to value other properties. Now, if you're the first, obviously it's going to have an issue with you trying to verify the value of your property, right? So what we're finding is obviously the market's hot and people want to be competitive, so they're going over asking price, and they're putting themselves in a situation where you may possibly take on some extra expenses. So what happens is if you were to go firm on a property and then we had an appraisal done, and that appraisal were to come in less than what the value is, you are responsible for the purchase price. Meaning, you have to come up with the difference between what the actual value was and the purchase price. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, for every dollar over the appraised value. So there's two things. On an insured purchase, there's going to be an AVM model. So it's essentially a desktop appraisal. The value has to come in within a certain percent. And the insurer has the ability to auto approve it. If it does not come in, we have to move to obviously like a full appraisal. And then on the uninsured side, so anything 20% or above on a down payment, you're gonna need a full appraisal. As Josh said, depending on where that appraisal comes in, let's say a home is going for 300, you put 350, that appraisal only comes in at 300. You have to come up with that $500 or the $50,000 extra on the down payment. So the bank will finance the 80% or the 95%, whatever it is, up to that $300,000 on the purchase, and then everything else you guys have to put that down cash on top of your down payment. So just make sure you understand when you're putting a larger offer in that if the value doesn't come in from an appraisal, like Josh said, maybe it's a newer neighborhood in terms of investors coming in and doing the renovations and the PERS, and that precedent hasn't been set, you could be on the hook for that additional the down payment, anything over top of what the actual purchase price was on the appraisal. So keep that in mind just when you guys are doing that. And then the other thing, like Josh said, just going firm. We understand it's competitive, and a lot of times the difference between getting an offer accepted and having it declined is your ability to go firm. Josh said, we can't recommend anybody go firm without some sort of financing condition. That's just professionalism on our side. The best thing that we can do is take a look at the numbers beforehand for you guys, make sure that the affordability is there. I like to kind of tell people that our internal evaluations are 98% accurate. The 2% difference there is really just coming down to the appraisal and any issues that the lender may have on their end. Obviously, on the initial stages, we can't dictate or tell you what the appraisal is going to be. So that, there is a chance the appraisal could not come in, or there could be some things that were caught that could have some issues on the lender's side. And then again, the lender could have some issues with the purchase just due to their own prerequisites. So we can't say for certain that last 2%, but we can tell you guys fairly accurately whether or not you're going to be able to afford that building on paper. And then from there on, that's your decision to be able to make your choice on whether you want to go firm and how far over the asking you guys want to put the offer in.
Yeah, we wouldn't want you guys to be in a situation where, you had to come up with a significant amount of money on top of your down payment to be able to get into a property. People are putting themselves in this situation. So just something like that we wanted to have tell you guys about, to be aware of, like, what are the consequences if you were to do this and make an offer. So be aware. Obviously you want to be competitive, but have a plan, a B plan, a C plan in case that value doesn't come in, especially in really hot markets at the moment.
Yeah. And I'm working with a client right now where we closed a purchase, and he had gone, I think it was 50,000 over or 60. And just like I said, like, he was on the hook for that 50,000. He had put part of the down payment for that purchase on his line of credit, and then he put the rest of the overage on his line of credit as well too. So now we're looking at refinancing a property to help pay off that line of credit. Or, in circumstances, he has some choices, but in a circumstance where maybe he wasn't able to turn that into a HELOC line, that could be the difference between paying off through the refi to be able to afford, or using the proceeds from a refinance for another down payment. That could really affect your ability moving forward with your game plan. So, just, it could be an unexpected expense down the road. So it's not something we would want to see you guys kind of getting stuck with and then having to choose where your proceeds from your next refinance are going. Now they're paying off a line of credit instead of being used towards a down payment for another rental property.
Yeah, for sure. And just in regards to, going back to our offsetting, there are a handful of different types of B lenders, as we've said before. So, some B lenders will allow you to use 70% across the board. Some allow you to use 80% across the board for all of your properties. Some will even allow you to not take into consideration property tax and heat, depending on if it's an owner-occupied property or if it's a rental property. There are many different types of lenders who offer different offsetting solutions. So it isn't like a one-fits-all kind of thing. Some have very specific guidelines about rental properties and what they would like to see, and some don't. So it's important to realize that there are tons of options available. And, we deal with them all. We try to deal with them all. There are quite a bit of products out there in the market at the moment. So, we try to keep that. One of the things we try to do to help our clients is just keep on top of what's available, what's not available, what's changing in the market, and what's not.
Yeah. Something else that we have on the B side too, that we haven't done any videos on yet, but is products for business for self people. So obviously, a lot of investors are business for self or are looking at some sort of business for self. And anyone who's self-employed has the predicament they're going to be in at some point, which is how much do you want to claim from your income and how much do you want to show, right? And how much tax do you want to pay to be able to show that? If you're one of those people where you're making, a solid gross amount, but you don't want to show that entire gross, maybe you want to show 30,000. We have some really great products on the B side. One of our lenders, what they're really able to do is take a look at a 12 months business statement. So they can take a look at, let's say you're with TD, they'll take a look at your 12 months TD statements. They're going to take a look at all the cash flow coming in. So if you show $30,000 on your NOA, but let's say your business statements show $200,000 coming in throughout those 12 months, we're actually able to use that $200,000 to help qualify you instead of looking at your NOA. So depending on what type of field you're in, whether you're a carpenter, whether you're a realtor, whether you're multimedia, social media, something else, there's different percentages of income that we are able to use. So let's say you're a realtor and you're able to use 80% of your income. It's not necessarily 80% for every realtor, but just as an example, if you show $200,000 commission statements coming in after your split with your brokerage, we can take 80% of that and use that as your qualifying amount, regardless of what you guys show on your NOA. So as a realtor, maybe you show $40,000. We can take that 80% of the 200 and actually qualify you with $160,000 instead of that $30,000. Bonuses, obviously, the fact that you don't have to show that income, so now you're saving the taxes that you'd have to pay, to be able to even show that $160,000 on your taxes. It's essentially cheaper to pay the 2% fee on the B side than it is to pay the taxes that you're going to pay showing, the $160,000. So keep that in mind.
100%.
If you guys want to have any conversations with that, we can take a look at what does your affordability have to be? What do you have to show? What does your business revenue, what do your bank statements show? How much of that can we use? And we can definitely give you an answer. It's just a matter of us checking with our lender, figuring out what their sheet says for your field of employment, and we can tell you exactly how much of that we can use.
So it does scale. So anything, if you make, say, above $250,000 in deposits, they scale the percentages they can use of the gross income or bank deposits. So important to note that if you are above that 250 mark, it does scale down a little bit. But for example, I had a guy who's a carpenter the other day, and he shows like $240,000, but he only claims 30. So conventionally, we can't help him out. But on the B side, we're able to use, I think it was 70% of it. We brought his income up to about $130,000, $140,000, and then he could do a full equity takeout to be able to consolidate debt, buy a rental property. There's obviously it's a 1-year term, so it's not something that's great long term, but you have to look at overall cost of opportunity. So what is the overall debt that you carry right now? Like, what's the cost of you not being able to purchase another rental property? So he's able to, just justify the fact that he's paying an extra 2%, 1.5% on his rate over the term of his loan, but he's able to then take on the appreciation from other properties, which to him is growing his family's wealth. Mm-hmm. So it really is a great product. From experience, I guess, They use a percentage based off of a handful of different data points. They're obviously not going to share them with us, but from our experience, it has a lot to do with how much equipment and capital upfront does it cost you to do your job, hypothetically. So if you're like something that takes a lot of cost to be, and there isn't a whole lot of margin, and they're going to factor that into the percentage that you can use. But this product is way better than a lot of the other BFS products. The other BFS products were essentially just going through bank statements and taking a look at deposits and expenses and figuring out what exactly was actually left over. This is much better. It helps a lot of people out. There is between a $500 to $700 renewal fee every single year. You can bump the amortization out to 30 years to make the payments more affordable. This product is a phenomenal product. Now, there obviously are some locations that aren't available in their lending area, but the majority of the Golden Horseshoe, any like decent metropolitan area, they're not going to have an issue with it.
They'll go to Sudbury. So I talked to them the other day. Yeah. They'll do Sudbury. Again, guys, on the more rural properties, it really just depends on the property. How rural is it? Is it more towards the city, like quote unquote city, versus a cabin in the woods? What shape is the property in? If it's in a good shape, these guys have the ability to go to the more rural areas. So we can definitely do those, more northern properties. Something to consider with this too is if it's a corporation, what percent owner are you of the corporation? If you're a 50% owner, I can only use 50% of that gross revenue coming in from your business. So keep that in mind as well too. But I was working with a pharmacist who owned a 50% in the company, and we were actually able to show, even after the 50% split, about $152,000 versus I think he was showing 30 to 40 on his NOA. So, you're almost tripling the income on there and being able to use that even at a 50% shareholder. So it's a great product. You can use that, like I said, rentals and or owner occupied properties. And the rates are competitive, super competitive.
Residential, obviously. So you can't go anything 5 units and up. So it has to be a fourplex and down. It can be your personal residence or a rental property. They do need full AML. So I need to see where the money's coming from for your down payments. But they are decently flexible when it comes to the offsetting as well, which is phenomenal. So this product, I can rant and rave about this product all day, but anybody who is owner, who is business for self, phenomenal product.
Yeah, well, I'll keep talking about them. So there's a lot of cool things. So they actually allow you to borrow your down payment from lines of credits. You do have to service it. So we have to factor in that payment, but if you had very minimal liabilities and a great income, you could put that whole down payment on your line of credit and qualify with it, as long as we can factor in that monthly payment. and you have the affordability, you can do that. So
the cool thing about this lender as well, so this B lender, they allow you to amortize out the debt. So instead of how a conventional lender would use 1.5% for a secured line of credit or 3% for a unsecured line of credit, they're able to take your secured line of credit, like that amount, amortize it out for 25 years at 4.79%. So your, say, $1,500 a month payment turns into like a $300 a month payment, which drastically affects your total TDS and GDS ratios, which, again, helps with qualification. There are very few times when you probably couldn't qualify for a mortgage with this. The trick is obviously, that there are some upfront costs to doing it, but the overall cost is far less than not being in a property. So
yeah, it's a game-changing product for a lot of business owners. If you guys are a business for self and you're struggling, or you show super low income, but you have, like I said, the business bank statements to prove it, we can take a look. Let's have a conversation. Make sure you have those 12 months business statements prepared, but we can definitely take a look through there and figure out how much of that income we can use, and that might be the difference for you moving forward and building your portfolio of rental properties.
For sure. And in conjunction with this, we do have a 20,000 down product. So for the people who possibly wanted to be a little bit more strategic, essentially, if you had your 20,000 down, you found a good property, you did a BRRRR on it, and then you didn't show a whole lot of money, but your business showed a lot of money, and you could show us bank statements, you could essentially use 20,000, force appreciate the property, build that equity, and then refinance into a B lender with this product without having to come up with a 20% down if you built the equity in. So, if you have $20,000 plus some reno costs and you find a good opportunity, there are ways to get into these properties and to not have a private mortgage. So things to think about, guys. Yep. Other than that, we wanted to talk a little bit, I guess, about our flip product. It's going really well. A lot of our clients are really enjoying it. Just feedback coming from them. It was really quick closing, so they can close within a day. So if you are in a jam and you need to get that done, it is nice knowing that they are very quick at closing. If your timeline and your costs are dialed in, this is a phenomenal product. If you can actually close and sell in time, there's a big money to be made. Most of our deals that we're seeing in our books right now are between $30,000 to $35,000 in profit over 3 months.
Yeah.
Usually we're not seeing a whole lot of terms over 3 months just because of the overall carrying cost of the loan. It doesn't make sense to be in it for much longer than 3 or 4 months unless there's a ton of cash in the property. They're basically able to go to almost anywhere. Like they haven't said no to any of our deals.
Quebec is one area where we've had absolute no's from, unfortunately. So we apologize. If you can live in Quebec and purchase properties outside of Quebec, they just won't lend on properties inside of Quebec. So that's kind of really the only no that we've had. And it's just about profit, guys. How much profit is in the deal? If it's a rural property, how much profit's in it? What are the ARVs? And that's something else we want to talk about too, is just whenever you bring us a deal, make sure there are strong comparables in place, because all of the ARV is going to be derived off of that comparable value. So, there's a lot of wholesalers out there who are putting together these packages. Make sure you as the investor are doing your own due diligence on those wholesale packages. Every now and again, we get some comparables that are a little bit more for show versus, more so similar to the property. And that's just a learning experience on the wholesaler side, but just making sure you take a look at the comparables. If the property is advertised as a waterfront property, the comparables are waterfront property, but it turns out that property is not on waterfront. Those waterfront comparables are no longer any good. They're not going to support the value of where that property is going to come in at. So, just making sure the comparables are as accurate as possible. That's going to help moving forward with all ARV values and strengthen the deal. Yeah.
Other than that, I think that was it in regards to current market news and products at the moment. Again, this specific type of offsetting that we were talking about earlier in the video, like, it's not the easiest thing to be able just to say, okay, well, this is my number. Like it's a very unique situation, a very unique solution to a situation. So a few things to keep in mind if you are looking to execute the strategy. It's got to be owner occupied. You want to make sure it's cash flowing, and you got to have a down payment, a verifiable down payment. Okay. So if you're in a situation where you don't show a whole lot of money, but you have a down payment, this product is phenomenal. It's 100% offset. It's great. It'll allow you to be able to build your portfolio for multifamilies without having to show more income on your T1s and NOAs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you guys...
You're all thinking, can we use the house hack in conjunction with the business for self? And the answer is yes. You can use both of them. It is the exact same lender. They will allow you to qualify like that. So,
yeah. So if you guys do have any questions, or if you want us to cover anything in our live next week, drop comments in the comment section below. And if you don't already follow us on YouTube, please go follow us on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We are growing slowly. We have about 350 followers now. We're trying to pump those numbers up and get them up there. We are going to be on a handful of other people's content coming up in the short to medium term. So we're going to try to bring more real estate content to you guys.
One of the things we're going to be looking at doing in the future is some sort of like preferred partner type podcast where we bring on, essentially helping you guys, providing you guys with some context to be able to build your power team. So we want to start having some interviews and podcasts with like lawyers, realtors. We'll do some like CPAs, maybe some contractors who are very familiar with properties, the rental properties in the real estate markets. Just giving you guys options in different cities for people that you can reach out to and use and bring into your power team.
We were wrapping it up. We have a few questions here. One question being, for the great house hack, how long the property has to be owner occupied? If you move out in a couple of years, could it be a problem at the time of mortgage renewal? So there isn't necessarily like a time frame that you need to live in the property for. When you close on the transaction of the property, you have to have the intent to be able to move in as an owner occupied residence. You will be asked to sign an affidavit stating that it is owner occupied and you will be living in the property. Obviously people move and things happen and life changes. It isn't necessarily going to affect your renewal. So usually what's going to happen is your lender is going to send you renewal documents. You should update them, but they are going to send you renewal documents every single year as long as you're up to date on your mortgage. They may take a look at your credit history to see what your current credit score is. They are not obligated to renew you, but 99% of the time, if you're up with your payments, then they should renew you. And last but not least, Christian Sachs said we should cover refinance after private mortgages. Let's talk about that. Okay, so we can definitely have an entire episode on that. So maybe next week we will review that and talk about that. From Navjeet Mundi, multifamily refinancing, different structures. If you can talk about that next week as well, we can definitely do that as well. We'll keep both those in mind, and we will write those down, make some notes, and get back to you guys with the information-filled episode next week.
Yeah, we always appreciate your guys' feedback. We're always looking for more things to talk about. What Josh and I might think are, things that aren't as cool to talk about, you guys may really want to know or maybe have questions about it. So definitely, if you're talking to us on the phone during the week or if you're in our live streams, just make sure you leave your comments. Unfortunately, we're not mind readers. So if you guys have questions, just make sure you leave them for us, and we'll either answer them in the stream or we'll make sure we cover them in next week's live stream.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for your time. We will see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.